28th of January, the NATO allies and others are going to get together in London for a summit meeting to talk about what the West and the world can do for Afghanistan. We're looking for some new financial commitments from our European friends in particular, looking for a vote of confidence in a new Afghan government that is still in the process of being formed, because there can be no security strategy for Afghanistan that does not involve a legitimate and accountable government in place that is meeting the needs of its people. We are also looking for commitments from not only the host Great Britain, but from our other European allies and certainly the United States and other partners, friends of Afghanistan, about staying in the country for the long haul. The Taliban are operating on a long time frame there. They think that they can pursue a strategy of waiting for the West to retreat in Afghanistan, and the best single message that Western and other world leaders could send to our adversaries in Afghanistan, who are the adversaries of the Afghan people, is that we will stay in that country and work closely with its government and people as long as we need to get it right. And that means providing security, strengthening governments, supporting development, and eliminating the space in which the Taliban thrives. The key topics will include new financial, economic support for the Afghan government, the Afghan people, new initiatives to strengthen governance at the local and provincial levels, since the international community has supported the Afghan government at the national level to some extent over the last 8 years at the expense of local and provincial government. To strengthen the developmental base of the Afghan economy. Afghanistan remains one of the poorest countries in the world. All of these efforts are intended to squeeze out the space in which the Taliban operates. The Taliban thrives in Afghanistan by virtue of the state's failure to connect with its people, by virtue of resentment over not foreign troops, but foreign troops who don't seem able to do the job that they're there to do, providing security to the public. The Taliban also thrives by the propaganda it puts out about Western infliction of civilian casualties, the West's desire to occupy Afghanistan, none of which are true. A big part of this conference needs to be messaging to the Afghan public and to the world that the West is in Afghanistan to stay as long as its government and people want us to help them strengthen security, governance, and development. If those three things happen, and they happen within a reasonable time frame, the Taliban cannot possibly win. Their strategy is to wait for our, not our defeat, but our lack of patience and our withdrawal. We should have the stomach to stay in this, and I don't want to say just stay in the fight, but to stay in this because it's a very comprehensive civilian military effort until we can help the Afghan people meet those aspirations. We can definitely win in Afghanistan. Polling shows consistently that vast majorities of the Afghan public do not want to be governed by the Taliban. They don't want to live in a Talibanized state where there is no rule of law, where they are subject to medieval despotisms, including the elimination of all rights for women. Polling shows that Afghans want what people everywhere want, which is a basic level of human security, a chance to improve their lot through economic opportunity, the chance to see their children do better than they have, and the chance to vote for, to elect leaders in free elections that are accountable to them and that represent them. That's why we can win. That's why Afghanistan is very unlike, say, Vietnam in the late 60s, early 70s, where the United States never supported having free elections in South Vietnam because it was worried that a majority of the Vietnamese people would vote for the communists. In Afghanistan, we don't need to worry about a majority ever voting for the Taliban. They've been there and done that, and they never want to do it again. The stakes are huge. People sometimes talk about diminishing our commitment to Afghanistan, the West's commitment. on the grounds that it's not strategically important like Pakistan is, or another country like Iran, big, powerful countries. It has a small economy, it's never been governed properly, all these sorts of arguments. In fact, we see again and again that the West cannot leave countries like Afghanistan alone. Again, we tried this during the 90s. Afghanistan suffered a terrible civil war. The Taliban took power, in part just because people wanted some kind of order imposed on the violent chaos of their lives. Osama bin Laden and his cohorts started planning there. Attacks have been plotted in Afghanistan and along the Afghanistan-Pakistan border, not only against the United States, but against Europe, against other friends of our country. So there are very compelling strategic arguments for winning in Afghanistan, for staying until we've completed the job we set out to do in alliance with the Afghan government. Pakistan, a country of huge strategic importance, will always be unstable and could degenerate very rapidly into large-scale unrest, instability, if we don't get Afghanistan right. Beyond these strategic arguments, there's a very compelling moral case, which is that we in the West promised to help the Afghan government and people build a different kind of future than the violent past they had come out of, 30 years of civil war in Afghanistan. It would be scandalous for us to walk away. It would be scandalous for us to leave before the job is done. And in response to arguments that there are more important strategic priorities out there, the rise of China, or revanchist Russia, or nuclear Iran, all of these issues, they're really important, but our competitors and adversaries around the world are watching. The Taliban are not the only ones interested in a Western withdrawal without finishing the job in Afghanistan. Failing to finish the job there, failing to help build a capable, functioning state that can deliver for the Afghan people would have enormous implications not just for America but for the West. NATO's biggest out-of-area operation is in Afghanistan. It would call into question the future of NATO. It would encourage people around the world, countries around the world, the minority of them, but important ones, who don't want to see the West succeed, who want a diminishment of Western leadership, a rolling back of Western values in the international system. It would encourage all of those actors. So for all these reasons, this January 28 conference is really important, and the messaging it sends, the commitments that are made on security, on development, will resonate for a long time.